doctor.
Back in the 1800s, an Englishman named William Banting first popularized what we now know as the low-carb diet. More recently and locally, Professor Tim Noakes has also advocated for low-carb eating in South Africa, with 1 million diabetics in our population and an obesity epidemic on the rise.
Carbohydrates. To some, it's a swear word. To others, it's just something that they can't live without. Over the years, low-carbohydrate diets have come in and out of vogue. But recently, there's been a lot of controversy with nutritionists and scientists on either side of the low-carbohydrate fence. Today, we find out from the experts what the skinny is on the low-carb diet.
The body uses carbohydrates to make glucose, which is the fuel that gives you energy and is stored in the liver and muscles.
Claire, you believe that not all carbs are created equal, so they shouldn't all be treated as bad. Why is that?
They aren't all equal. You get different types of carbohydrates, especially in the starch group. You have whole grain carbohydrates and refined carbohydrates. So a refined carbohydrate would be something like white bread or a donut or a bag of Jelly Babies, which has 17 spoons of sugar, for example. You can't say that that is equal to something like a whole grain mealie, where you pull off one little corn kernel and you can see the germ and the grain and the endosperm, all the parts of the whole grain, or something like oats or a high fiber whole grain cereal. They provide a lot of nutritional benefits and they shouldn't be excluded from the diet.
Complex carbohydrates take longer for the body to digest and help keep blood sugar and energy levels consistent.
So what is the science behind the low-carb diet and weight loss?
Shemendran, you can look at the specific benefits of the low-carb diet really on two levels. One is the psychological level. Our brains are hardwired to reward us for finding foods which are calorie dense, both carbohydrate and fat foods. They put out dopamine, which is our feel-good hormone. And we very often will find that when we're feeling a little bit down, we tend to self-medicate with food. Now, in ancient times, these very energy-rich foods might have been scarce. In modern times, it's chocolates, ice creams, crisps, that kind of thing, which are very easily available. And they're the foods we tend to turn to when we're feeling a little bit down. On a physiological level, carbohydrates are a very good energy source in the body, but they're very heavy to store. It can't store it as a sugar crystal. It's got to store it in a syrup form, which means for every gram of carbohydrate that your body stores, it's got to also store 3 grams of water. So carbohydrate becomes very bulky and very heavy to store. For this reason, the body's got a limited storage capacity. Between the liver and the muscles and the blood, there's between 1 and 2 cups of carbohydrate in your whole body. And our feeling is that the modern diet, especially with the refined and high glycemic carbohydrates, tends to overload that system. So what happens initially when you taking more carbohydrate than your body can actually save, it's got to be dispensed with, which largely means converting it to fats. And that's a whole new area of understanding. Previously, when we've examined bodies of sickly people, we found very big fat deposits, and the assumption was that these fats are of dietary origin, and therefore the advice was to cut out your dietary fats.
So why are carbohydrates so important from a nutritional perspective?
First of all, they contain a huge amount of fiber, and you don't get that fiber, you could have conditions like constipation, diverticular disease. Your risk for colon cancer increases because your gut's not functioning properly. The second thing is that in your gut-associated lymphoid tissue, that most of it's there, and what that is your immunity really. A lot of your immune cells are in your gut. So if your gut health is not good, it also will compromise your immunity.
Some people are unable to process carbohydrates because they lack the necessary enzyme for digestion. This is carbohydrate intolerance, and its most common form is lactose intolerance, affecting 70% of the world's population.
So how does it work?
Shemendran, the hormone which is most responsible for managing this big influx of carbohydrate into the body is insulin. Insulin is a very powerful hormone. It has effects not only in managing sugar metabolism, but also in protein metabolism and most of our body's metabolic processes. It's a major determinant of whether the body will be in a storage or in a mobilizing mode. When your insulin levels are high, your body will tend to be in a storage mode. We feel that for many people in a high carbohydrate environment, initially the insulin system might be able to work and keep up with that huge intake, but ultimately it starts to burn out. So in the intermediate phase, you will get a metabolic domino effect from having too high insulin level, which may manifest as hypertension, high blood pressure, dyslipidemia, changes in your cholesterol levels, dysglycemia, fluctuating blood sugar levels, and inappropriate weight gain. Ultimately, should that system burn out completely, it will manifest as diabetes.
So the take-home message is to not follow a fad diet and rather live a healthy lifestyle consisting of a lot of exercise and having a balanced diet.
You know what? You can have carbohydrates and protein and fat in any healthy, balanced diet. You do not have to go to these extremes and you will get the same results. It's more manageable and long-term it's sustainable, and the other thing is your nutrient quality will be better and you will probably live longer if you follow a moderate diet.
There are some important things to remember in the great low-carb diet debate. Firstly, low-carbohydrate eating plans show great results when it comes to diabetes, insulin resistance, and carbohydrate intolerance. It's also very good when it comes to weight loss, weight maintenance, and maintaining a normal blood sugar level. However, empirical evidence is still required in order to prove that this diet can be used over the long term and has long-term health benefits. Secondly, we can't deny that carbohydrates play a crucial role. What's important is monitoring your portion size and making sure that you're eating the right carbohydrates for you. Finally, we can't decide what and how you eat. My prescription: consult your nutritional or healthcare expert. Have them draw up an accurate diet plan for you. Whether you decide to keep carbs or kick carbs to the curb, make sure it's the healthy decision for you.
I want to live the best life.